the beginning of the season, you have like the excitement of like the new team, like meeting everyone, getting your bearings, like figuring out your apartment. And that pretty much leads into like the season starting. So then you have the fun of the games. And then after that, it's like Halloween. And like now people decorate for Christmas the day after Halloween. So I feel like November and December being here was like an easier time because I had like the Christmas spirit and like all of that. And then it's like January, I think, is hard for me because all of that is over. And that's when it always hits me that I've missed all of the family things back home, like with my friends and family. Like I see it happening and playing out in December, like everyone's getting together and doing like dinners and gift swap and all this stuff. And then in January, it just like hits me that it's all over and like I've missed all these things. And also, you're not at the end of the season yet. So like you don't have that motivation. Like when you get into like February and March, or like playoffs are starting. And so you have like that to like carry you through. January is just like this rut where you're like right in the middle of the season, I feel like, and it's just dark all the time. It's cold. It's so dramatic, but you feel like you have nothing to look forward to. And that's at least how I feel. I'm just like everything hits me all at once in January. And Josh told me that 7 years ago. I remember him saying like January is the hardest month out of the whole hockey season. And I was like, I don't really understand, but every year I'm like, I'm gonna be better in January and like be positive and be more optimistic. And January is my rut for sure. It's when I have the hardest time like coping with being over here, and anything that goes wrong, I feel like it's 10 times harder for me to do than January to not be dramatic. But
you're listening to Breaking the Ice podcast, a podcast that I created in 2020 to connect women within the hockey world. My name's Devin Dodaro, my husband's Charlie Dodaro, and we've played literally all over the world. We have 2 kids, 2 dogs, and let's just say hockey has taken my world by storm. What I've learned is that this community and these experiences are very specific, and you should not have to go through this alone. Through this podcast, I share the tools, resources, do's, don'ts, and what's helped me along the way while continuing to learn from each and every one of you. So lace them up and tune in for episodes twice a month. And make sure to follow the page on Instagram at Breaking the Ice Pod. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the podcast. It is January. It is the middle of January. I hope you are thriving. If not, just surviving. If you're just surviving, it is okay. I'm right there with you. This is the longest month of the hockey season. Let us not forget it. Like Maggie talked about in the intro, at the beginning of the season, you have like the excitement and, stress kind of like getting settled into a new place, figuring it all out. The sun's still out, you're doing things, people are outside, then the holidays happen, and then you kind of just like have a little bit of a fall off where it's just dark, it's cold, it's rainy, you're like, I'm missing home. And you don't really have like the end of the season really to like get you through. Like that kind of March time is where you start to get like, okay, we're going home in like a month and a half. So it's just kind of a roller coaster. Like there's just a lot of ups and downs throughout the, time during the hockey season. And I would say for the majority of people, this is kind of a dull time of the year. This is the second time I've had Maggie on my podcast. The first time was when we were playing in France, and it's one of my most downloaded episodes. It's called The Mental Toll of Hockey. And Maggie and I are friends. We talk a lot. She came to my retreat in Nashville, and we've just stayed in touch. And we felt it was really important to have an episode like this because we are feeling it right now. Like we are feeling that kind of funk right now, and we wanted to sit down because we are able to have those conversations with each other where we can genuinely share how we're feeling. And it's almost like we forgot we were recording, honestly. This is a very validating episode if you're struggling right now, if you struggle with this lifestyle. I truly believe that a lot of us are kind of put into this box like, okay, well, you chose this life and like you got to just suck it up and get through it. And, if you haven't experienced a lot of hardships in this lifestyle, then it might be a little bit difficult to understand like why this can be very challenging for some people. Like, for example, there's people that are living abroad on some teams where there's no other imports, or maybe you're in on a team where people are in a completely different season of life that you're in, or maybe you haven't seen your family in 6 to 9 months to a year to multiple years. Like, there's just so many things that can really build up for us as women in this lifestyle. So we really just kind of dove into it head first and shared about how we both struggle in this lifestyle. And yeah, it was just a genuine conversation. I don't think that either of us tried to put like a positive spin on it and be like, well, it's all okay. And I don't believe that you should just like sit in your misery and like not try to figure out a way to enjoy it, because there are a lot of elements that I do enjoy. Like we spend so much time together as a family, and being able to stay home with my kids is such a blessing. But I also really struggle with, not being able to live in my house that I love, and not being surrounded by like my really close friends that all live on my street back home, and also knowing that it's a challenge for my son this year being so far away, and like he talks about it so much. And I think we really just long to be stable. Like, in our perfect world, if we could play at home and, be settled, and like it's hard to feel like you don't really have a lot of control over your life. I'm just being honest. This is a long episode, so I don't want to ramble on too long in this intro, but Maggie and I also do get into some mental health struggles that we actually share and we really relate to each other on, which is OCD. And we actually have like a very similar, well, we have the same theme of OCD, which is we stress about like health related stuff. And I've shared an episode on this called Postpartum OCD, where I opened up about what I was struggling with postpartum. And so Maggie and I chat about this a lot, and how we feel that sometimes that this lifestyle does kind of play a role into that, because there's just so much uncertainty that we just don't have the best like coping mechanisms with the OCD. Like, if you do have some mental health struggles, it can be a challenge to, have to navigate this lifestyle, being alone a lot, being far a lot, raising children away from home, alone with barely any support. So I encourage you to listen to this with an open mind. I'm assuming if you clicked on this episode, you might be experiencing a dose of the January blues, or maybe you are just curious to listen to other people's perception of how they're feeling right now. You're curious about maybe how Maggie and I are feeling or handling the situation. Maybe you're not necessarily experiencing January blues. But just please keep in mind that everybody has had a different experience in this lifestyle, and a lot of us do struggle. And I sometimes struggle with putting myself out there and being vulnerable because it's scary. Like, it's my personal life, and, usually everyone's very receptive to it, but I also feel like I do occasionally get pushback, or feel like there's judgments when I do share things, and so that can be a challenge sometimes. But I also know that deep down, that sharing the uncomfortable stuff and sharing the stuff that isn't so glamorous, and sharing about struggling with mental health things, it's important. Because when I'm struggling, like, I seek to find comfort that I'm not like alone, and it's not just me. So I hope that this episode very much resonates with you and gives you a little bit of peace of mind that if you're going through it, you're not alone. And towards the episode, Maggie and I also chat about how we were both interviewed for a show that Netflix is doing on Hockey Wives, and we give our opinions about what that interview process looked like for us and how we think the show is going to play out. So there's a little bit of a sneak tea for you. Sneak peek of tea. All right, enjoy the episode. Hi.
Hi, can you see me? Oh, there you are.
I feel like I'm doing a telehealth call with my doctor.
Same. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna feel way less stressed after I get off this. I don't even know what I'm gonna say, but it's gonna help me somehow.
Maggie Kestner, aka therapist slash nurse slash the answer to my problems.
Oh, Devin,
How are we?
not great, but I'm hanging in there.
Oh God.
One, I hope my washer stops soon. I don't know if you can hear that.
Oh, I mean, I didn't notice it till you just said that.
I tried to put a blanket over the cabinet with the washing machine,
Oh,
but
is
it
it?
didn't work.
It's like behind the. No,
Yes.
I think it's fine. I mean, it's like funny. We talk all the time. It's not like we need to be like,
No,
welcome in.
I know. I'm like, we should probably do this more often, just for the heck of it. So for our own therapy, we can have a weekly therapy check-in. Because at this point, I know you're sick of seeing my name pop up as a text. I'm like, oh my gosh. I try not to
You're
text you,
having
but
all of those symptoms just while we're on a
oh, yeah.
now that I have you. All right. Well, I guess we shall dive in.
Let's do it.
We talk every day, so I feel like I can't sit here and pretend that we don't. So
But oh
I
my,
know what's going on with you. But for those that are listening, you probably listened to Maggie's episode that we recorded. I think it was 2 years, like close to 2 years ago when I was
yeah.
on experience. And
Yeah.
the episode is called The Mental Toll of Hockey. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
A very honest episode. It was one of my most downloaded episodes, seriously.
Was it really?
Yeah, no, really, it really was. And I think people want to hear that side of it,
Yeah.
of, the hard times, because I think I've said this a million times, but a lot of people want to put a positive spin on everything. And obviously, everyone's situation is different. And sometimes that might be very true, but a lot of us do struggle in this lifestyle, and it's important to address it and be real about it. And I appreciate that about you.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like you said, I think everything is so glamorized about it that you don't ever hear the hard or the challenging parts of it. Um, so getting to, I don't know, shed light on it is probably good for people going through it. And then I think it's good for people who want to support us, like our friends and stuff back home, to hear it, because I feel like being around us or being supportive for us in the hardest times is what gets us through it. The glamour and the fun of it is like the easy part, but then like the stuff, the day to day challenges is really kind of what makes the season drag by sometimes. So just to talk about it is always enlightening, I feel like, for everyone. But
Yeah. So when we talked, you were pregnant, but didn't tell anyone yet. So I didn't know. And that was like our first recording together. And then I think you announced like a few months after that.
yeah.
Well, I don't remember where exactly you were that season, but why don't you just catch everyone up to speed, like what's been going on in life, where you are now, and
Yeah, so that was, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so I got pregnant in Finland. I actually found out the morning I was flying back home to Nashville. So I never was in Finland really knowing that I was pregnant, but that's where it all started. And then I came home. At the time, I worked as a school nurse, so I did that throughout the summer. And then we went to Prague last year. So and that was the first season I actually flew with Josh, like out there initially. So I got to experience all the craziness of like the apartment, like, they didn't have us in the right apartment, trying to figure out like how to get our visas and our phones and all of that stuff. So we were in Prague. I gave birth in Prague, which is a whole other story in itself. And then I came home in January, and Josh was injured at the time. So we just kind of made the decision for me to come home. I had some complications after giving birth. And then I spent the rest of the time at home, and I didn't come out here in Slovakia until November. So I actually got lucky. I kind of got 9 full months at home, which is like a treat in itself. But so now I'm in Spiska in Slovakia and trying to, just
I'm sorry. Your face, I cannot. You're like, here I am, and
here I am, Devin. I'm trying to keep my head above water. That's where I'm at right now. So yeah, and it's January, the longest month of them all. I feel like this month drags
It
by
does.
far the longest.
So
So
he had a late signing and you guys were like super stressed about like getting a job.
yes, totally forgot about that. But that was extremely stressful. That was the first time ever that we didn't have a contract going like August 1st or into July when everyone goes out. So I was texting you a lot trying to like get reassurance because it's so overwhelming to like see all these people posting like about training camp and moving and stuff and like you don't even have a clue as to where you're going to go. And then you can attest to this like when you sign late, you have like no time to prepare. Like you literally just it's almost like he found out and I think 24 hours later he was getting on a flight. So it was from he didn't leave till the beginning of October. So for 2 months, we were waiting for a contract. And there was multiple, like I told you, there was multiple times we thought we were going somewhere and then like it fell through or it didn't pan out or whatever. So it's just crazy. Every single year I tell Josh, anywhere we think we're gonna go or end up, that's never where we go. It's always like some place that we weren't expecting. So this was a shock for us to come here, but yeah, just glad that he got a contract finally because I was losing years off my life, I think, in those 2 months. And so was Josh waiting to find
That
out.
Can we talk about how like energy sucking it is though to like have a potential something in the works like when you're because we've had that too where like this team seems like really into us and like they're literally drawing up a contract and then like we're
Yes.
reading through it and realize like there's like an issue like oh it only says 2 bedroom in here and like they won't add in three. I'm like I'm not doing that. Like we're very clear now on what we want. So I think it makes it a little
Yes.
more like we're making sure like it's very fine-tuned when it's sent over, but like pouring all of your energy, like having those hard conversations, imagining what life will look like there, and then to have it fall through and go through that multiple times
It's like a breakup with like
is so emotionally exhausting. It's
it,
crazy.
it is. And I can say now that I have a child, like it makes the contract even more like I thought me tagging along was like a headache, but like you find out there are some teams that like want nothing to do with like a family. Like they find out you have a child and a wife and like you don't all want to share one room together and they're like, oh, okay, never mind. So that was crazy for us and like trying to ask like, well, do we buy the crib for her to stay in or do we bring like a pack and play or do they supply it? And like we got all kinds of range of answers, but like you said, we thought we were going places and you know me, I get on Google and I'm like looking up the restaurants, how far the rink is from like most apartments and stuff. And then like we would be told on Friday that on Monday we're gonna like see this contract that's being written up and then Monday would come and then his agent would call and be like, well, it didn't pan out. So like we've just spent all weekend so excited and relieved that we had a job and then it wouldn't pan out. So I mean it's
Yeah.
something I wouldn't wish on anyone to have to go through that.
I also feel like I don't know if you guys have been, actually, I think you have because I think we've talked about it, but in those situations where like you are a team and you it is a partnership and so you guys have to make that decision together and there's definitely been times where Charlie is like pushing for something to me but like I have like a gut feeling that it's not a good
Yeah,
fit and so like there can be a lot of push pull of like well but like this is the only offer I have right now or like this is what that like it'll be fine and I'm like okay but like I'm past that point like I don't want to just go somewhere where like it'll be fine like I want to feel good and like confident in our decision. So I feel like that
yeah,
can be really
for sure.
stressful too if you're not like totally seeing eye to eye on like where you want to go.
For sure. Like, and I don't mean this like ugly towards like the guys, but I think that what they're looking at in a contract is totally different than what wives and girlfriends are looking at because they're looking at like how much playing time am I going to have? How many imports are on the team? Like, what is the stats of this team and how well have they done? And like, I do care about that, but like, I'm thinking like I have to live in this apartment more time than like I spend so much time here. Like my daughter, like doctors, schools for you, your kids go to school. So like you're right. There's so many times throughout those 2 months where he was like really wanting something and I was saying like, I just don't know. Like I don't know that it's worth it. But then there's the panic of like, well, what if we don't get offered anything else type
Right.
thing. So It's hard to balance that to begin with if you're going to sign a contract on time. But then, like, when you feel like everyone's leaving you behind and you're trying to like make money for your family, it's really hard to like prioritize everything that you normally would. It's kind of like you have to sacrifice even more than you feel like you're already giving just on a normal day or a normal contract. So that's for sure how we felt this time. There was a lot of back and forth, and like some teams like will leave and go or just come and visit back and forth or stuff like that. So
There's no perfect situation with contracts. I feel like there's always something that's like,
missing.
yeah, like it might not even be anything major. Like it could be like, oh, the living situation, or like you live far away from the rest of the group or something, or like, oh, there's no other kids on the team, or there's no like the apartment's not the best, or there's no like there's just like there's nothing that's
Yes.
ever like, it's like basically like you just don't have like you don't get to choose. Like you're just like here are what your options are.
Yeah.
You know, like, those were like silly examples, but I just think like
No.
the perfect situation. So you basically have to choose like what you think will happen, and hopefully you can have options to choose from. But a lot of the times it does not work that way.
Yeah, that's so true. And I feel like when I look back over the years, whatever I loved about the season before, I almost never have that going into the next season. Like I'll have one season where I have like so many close friends, and then the next season I go like to Russia and I can't communicate with anybody, and I feel like I have no friends. And then, or I like love the apartment in Russia, and then the next year I go. That's just an example, but you know what I mean. It's like whatever I get used to having one year, it's like I feel like that gets stripped away from me most of the time the next year. So I'm like spiraling, trying to like get my bearings and get this new norm. Nothing is ever normal, and you never get the same setup twice ever.
You don't. And actually, I was gonna say your place behind you looks nice. It looks a lot better than the photos you thought you were going to go in.
Yeah,
Carpet.
it looks better than the Red Roof Inn that I thought I was going to be living in. Yeah, I mean, it's very nice. I have no complaints minus the mold. But
Yeah. What's going is that can we talk about that, or is that we'll talk
oh,
about
I
that.
mean, we can talk about it. I mean, it seems to be handled, but it's just like I don't know if it's a common thing anywhere you've lived over here, but like condensation seeping through the windows is not normal. And like I don't know how to like convey that here. I'm like I can open you're right, I can open the window and like buy a dehumidifier to help, but like at the end of the day, your windows don't have good seals on them. So like when it snows or rains and there's like moisture up against the windows, it just leaks through.
Oh, it's
And
every single place that we've lived in Europe.
I mean, it's mind blowing to me. And like, me as a nurse, I know all these things, how horrible it is to like live in mold. And I'm like, well, is that like why I feel like I'm congested and sick every time I come over here and live? Because I mean, and I go outside and I've made a point to look, and like barely anyone has their windows open here. So I'm like, that can't be like the norm. Like, it's not like everyone has their windows open, and that's like the fix to all of this. But um,
I feel like when I go outside, I feel better. And then it's like when I come back into the house and I start to feel congested again.
mhm. And there's just no like there's just no air movement, and like
Yeah.
yeah, it's either, and now we're joking like our lips are so dry and our skin is because we're running this dehumidifier because I'm a psycho and I'm like, I would rather just dissolve than be breathing in mold. So it's like I'm either breathing in mold or my skin, and I'm just suffering. Josh always says, like, I don't know if I'm waking up with strep throat every morning or it's just the fact that like, we have this dehumidifier running 24/7 to dry out any speck of moisture in the air. So and the drainage I have in the back of my throat, as soon as I go home and like you said, go outside, I feel like it improves. And the second I get back in here, it's like I can feel it now talking to you.
Yeah.
It's
No,
just my
no, I'm not even like I feel like in my ears right now, not to get on a
yeah,
side tangent with our shit, but like I feel like in my ears I can like they feel like they're getting like it must
like
be
full.
great.
Yeah. And you hear me. I'm like, I feel like I need to take a sip of water because it's just
Take your
and
water.
that's a whole nother thing. Like Leah Rose will have like a runny nose. She's never had a runny nose until she's gotten here. So now I'm like, is it because she has a cold or because it's the air? Like, I don't know. Who
Yeah,
knows?
you know. So I want to talk about January because this
Okay.
is like such a lovely month. Um, The longest, like I said, I talked about this on my Instagram stories. It is like the longest month of hockey. I'll just ask you this, like, how does January feel different than like the start or the end of the season?
I think there's just like, I don't even know how to word it. Like the beginning of the season, you have like the excitement of like the new team, like meeting everyone, getting your bearings, like figuring out your apartment. And that pretty much leads into like the season starting. So then you have the fun of the games. And then after that, it's like Halloween. And like now people decorate for Christmas the day after Halloween. So I feel like November and December being here was like an easier time because I had like the Christmas spirit and like all of that. And then it's like January, I think, is hard for me because all of that is over. And that's when it always hits me that I've missed all of the family things back home, like with my friends and family. Like I see it happening and playing out in December, like everyone's getting together and doing like dinners and gift swap and all this stuff. And then in January, it just like hits me that it's all over and like I've missed all these things. And also, you're not at the end of the season yet. So like you don't have that motivation. Like when you get into like February and March, or like playoffs are starting. And so you have like that to like carry you through. January is just like this rut where you're like right in the middle of the season, I feel like, and it's just dark all the time. It's cold. It's so dramatic, but you feel like you have nothing to look forward to. And that's at least how I feel. I'm just like everything hits me all at once in January. And Josh told me that 7 years ago. I remember him saying like January is the hardest month out of the whole hockey season. And I was like, I don't really understand, but every year I'm like, I'm gonna be better in January and like be positive and be more optimistic. And January is my rut for sure. It's when I have the hardest time like coping with being over here, and anything that goes wrong, I feel like it's 10 times harder for me to do than January, to not be dramatic, but it's a
No,
very
that's not dramatic. It's real. I feel like if you love January, like I please tell me why because it's yeah, it's
yeah.
it's yeah, it's never ending. It feels like endless. And I also there's so many games and they're gone so much in January.
Oh
Every team, like I don't know who makes these schedules, but like it's just
gosh,
oh,
I didn't even think about that. That's
they're
so true.
constantly. Like on this team this year, they've had 6 games in the last 10 days. Like, and it's just like, what is happening here?
That's so true. That's how we are. Like we play on Sunday. I think we play Tuesday, and then we play like Thursday or Friday. And it's the same thing. Like there's like I don't know. And then you have like a break, right, in February normally. So like you have that to offset February, and February is a short month, and you've got December. You get a break. January, I just feel like we don't get a break, and there's games, and I don't know. It's a busy month, and but it's mundane. It's like just nothing exciting. It's just the norm every single day.
Are you guys going somewhere for the February break?
Probably not. I
Really?
don't know. Yeah, it's just hard with Piper. I don't really know. This is our first time having her here, so I don't know how to go about that. I mean, I guess maybe if someone was staying here, they could help with her, but she's so nervous. It's just like, I don't know. What do you do with your, do you take your dogs when you go places or?
Oh, hell no. No, 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 no. We used to, but we have learned that it is not like, okay, for example, we went to the Cotswolds a couple weeks ago and like there's Rover here, but it just got so expensive. Like I hate going through that site because it's never like a flat fee and they always charge you so much more for 2 dogs where I'm just like my dogs I feel like they're a lot when you meet them initially, but then they like chill out and it's really just
Yeah,
like pouring an extra scoop of food. Like, yeah, maybe the walks or
yeah,
whatever, but like I'm not asking you to like go pick up all the dog poop in the backyard. Like
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
just sitting here like babysitting. Like I'm not gonna pay like $80 a day or whatever for like 2 dogs. So like it just gets really expensive. So like here it would basically be like almost 200 USD to go for 2 nights
Yeah,
for 2 dogs. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
so we'll just bring them. But then we're like out there and we're just like, okay, well, we have to like they're like yanking us down the street when we're like trying to explore and like the kids want to be on the stroller. So then like the kids are walking opposite directions. And then like we want to go to dinner, but then like should we leave the dogs in the Airbnb? Well, what if they're like going crazy and barking and
yeah,
people are hearing them? So then like one night for the dinner, we wound up just leaving them in the car and going and we parked right outside of the restaurant so we could like check on them if we needed to. But like with kids, it's like quick in and out with dinner. So like
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
back out. So we're like, it's fine. Anyway, that's my tangent for you. But I would not bring, I mean, you just have one dog. So like maybe
Yeah.
she's more manageable, but like I do not like bringing them on because it's not a vacation. Like there's zero,
Right. And
it's more of a burden, to be honest.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly how I think it, because she's so nervous. Like she would be high strung the whole time, so I would just be exhausted dealing with her.
Hmm.
Um, but then I'm like, I don't know who to use here, and I'm like, she's so nervous, and like there's the language barrier, so like I just don't know that I can like adequately like explain to somebody like be this way with her, or don't do this, or do and it's like the last thing I need is an issue with Piper in Slovakia. So I
Yeah.
don't know. We might go. I would like to go somewhere, but I just don't know. And
Hmm.
Piper is kind of throwing a wrench in it, and I'm just so nervous about what to do with her that I'm like, I don't even know if I figured it out and went somewhere if I could truly enjoy it or if I would just be worried about her the whole time that I'm gone.
Yeah,
But
I
it'd
know.
probably be good for me to get out of here.
Yeah, we don't even get a February. We didn't get a November break and a February break. And I think for me coming from Europe and having that the last 5 years, like that's been hard for me because I feel like those little breaks give me something to look forward to. Like that's one
Yes.
of the incentives to come over here is that you do get to travel and like
Yes.
see things. And here, like they'll be like, oh, here you guys get 2 days off tomorrow. And we're just like, okay, but we can't like
Do anything with that.
go last, and like maybe if
Yeah.
it's like easier to like do something last minute, but
Yeah.
I
Well, that's how in this December break we were supposed to, well, they fired our coach, but before they fired him, they were giving us like Monday through like Sunday off or Saturday or something, and then like one day on and then another day off. So like all these people had all these plans to like go to Greece or go to Spain and whatever. And then they found out like the Saturday or Sunday before the break's supposed to start that we weren't actually getting that, and we weren't getting a day off until like Thursday, and we were only getting like Thursday they still had practice, and then they had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and had to come back Sunday. So like you said, it's just especially here, it's like nothing is set in stone. And that's another thing is Josh, like I hate to buy all these plane tickets and like book these rooms or Airbnbs, and then like we find out 48 hours before that they're actually not going to give us the time off. So it's just a risk all the way around. So
like I wish that organizations did take that into consideration. Like I feel like a lot of organizations kind of, and I'm not saying like this organization does that, but I think they either don't realize or it's just never been that way or like they're not thinking that way. But like when people have families and their girlfriends and whatever, like out here, if the girls are happy, it's like night and day for the guys. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And like if there's just no time off and there's no breaks and there's no time to have family time, which is sorry, it's the most important thing.
yeah,
It can just kind of suck. And so like I
yeah.
wish more
And it,
organizations.
and I feel like it seeps into like the hockey, like how the guys play, because they're coming home to us and we're just like we're burned out and we're over it. So I agree 1,000%. I remember when we were in Rauma in Finland, that team by far was like the most family oriented team that we've ever like. They always said like your family's first, like happy wife, happy life. They gave us time off, like they were like they stuck to their word. Like I'd rather an organization say you're not getting a break and like I can just like mentally know I'm not getting time off than for you to tell me that I'm going to get something and then days before you just pull it away.
Mhm.
And I think like, do they not want time off? That's kind of what I also think. I'm like, weren't you planning on doing something with like these 5 days off with your
Right.
family? Or are you just gonna, I don't know. So I agree. I think they don't take it into consideration, and I kind of felt like that, my whole debacle being in Prague and like being pregnant and like they didn't give us the apartment they promised and like there it was so hot. I don't know. It's just when you're going through like stuff like that and the team, they are at your like you're at their mercy and they're not helping you and they're not saying the things that they promised. It really can just like make the whole process that much more difficult to try to, I don't know, get through and like stay positive. And
Yeah.
and then Josh has to deal with me.
I know. Well, and you don't want to feel like you want to be honest about how you feel to people, but you also don't want to feel like negative or like you're a burden or we sometimes put a pressure on ourselves to be like, well, it's fine. Like, even though it actually is like very upsetting, like when some of those things don't happen because you're giving up what you have back home and comparing it to what you're given, like what you
Exactly.
have back home, but what you're given here. And we're basically told to just appreciate it and not by our husbands, but just like,
Yeah.
it feels like the mentality sometimes is like, oh, well, you should just appreciate it and be grateful and thankful. And like, I don't know, it's just, it's hard sometimes because you're like, yeah, but right now I'm feeling negative about it, and
Right.
that's okay.
Right. Right. And I feel like, I don't know if you do this, but I'm like, is this the battle that I want to fight? Or is there going to be a bigger battle in 2 months that like I need the team to pull? You know what I mean? Like, that's how I felt in Prague. It's like they, we wanted a 2 bedroom because we were going to have a baby. And I'm like, is this what I push? Or like I hadn't met my doctors and everything for the hospital. And that's like, they were setting that all up for me. And it's like, you just feel like you can't complain about everything that you want to, almost like not complain, but you know what I mean? It's like,
Well, you can't
I
ask
almost,
me favors because then you're
yes,
like high
yes,
maintenance.
yes, yes. And at some point they're going to get tired of you making a fuss about something. And so I truly feel like I have to pick and choose my battles. And Josh says that all the time. He's like, I mean, I'll tell them or whatever. He's like, but I don't know. He's like, they're going to get tired of hearing from me. And I'm like, and it's never anything big. I'm just like, this is what they
No,
promised. And like,
you're
it's
trying to
like,
hold them accountable.
yeah, it's normal things. And I'm like, if I, and I also am a big person, like on your word, like if you tell me you're going to do something, like, then you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, then I'm going to be the person to like say something about it. And so I'm just like, I feel like if I let this go, then they're going to let something else go that they've also told us that they're going to do. So that's the constant battle for me, is trying to like make the best of it, but also like, I feel like I deserve some of the things that I asked for. Like I deserve to live in an apartment that doesn't have mold in it. That's just like a normal thing that like you should give somebody. And if something's wrong, then they should come fix it. But you're right. They kind of have the mentality of you get what you get, and like everyone else is making do with the situations here. So we've gotten that a lot, like, well, so and so's wife doesn't complain, or she's fine with it, or she liked the doctor or whatever. And it's just, it's very
Mm,
draining.
that yeah, that's that comparison thing is like super frustrating. Like, oh
Yeah.
well, you're fine. Like, or we've never had that happen. Like, it's like, okay, but it doesn't work for me. And
Yeah.
so it's the like I don't care if it didn't work for this person. Like it's not working for me. So
And
um,
I think I said it on the last episode, like you almost like strip your identity here. Like you're just like, I don't, like you're saying, like it doesn't work for me. Like you kind of like you lose that ability to like be that way about things, because you do feel like, well, all these other girls have lived here and made do with it. And so like, am I the problem, or am I just like strictly like having like some standards about picking up my whole family and living in a foreign country? I don't know.
I know that made me think too. Like I don't know if I can't remember if we talked about this. I should have listened to our episode again before. I've listened to it multiple times, but before we did our call. But I feel I always say I feel like I need to stop saying that so much. I'm like I feel like why do I say that? Like just say what you're thinking. Now I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, back home, I am a lot more independent. I have my own car. I can go somewhere if I want to go somewhere. If Charlie's not home, I'm not nagging him to get home because I want to go somewhere. Like I can
Yeah.
just get in the car, take my kids and go. I know where things are. I feel a little bit more sense of, excuse me, a little bit more sense of freedom. Where here it's almost like, and I don't want to use this word lightly because I know this is like a problem for some people, but like it's a little bit feels a little codependent. Like I don't like feeling like I have to rely on Charlie, and like we do have to rely on each other so much, and like that's
Yeah.
a good thing that we like can do that with each other.
Yeah.
But I have to go through him for everything, and then it's not even just through him. It's like if we need something done, if something breaks, like and again, if you're
Yes.
on my team this year and you're listening to this, I am talking about my experience in general. I'm not specifying like this team. Just overall like my experience with hockey, it's like I have to go through him, then he has to go through the team. We have to wait for their response. They might have to check in with someone else on the team, and they get back to them. They get back to Charlie, it gets back to me. I mean, it's like this game of telephone. We're back home. I'm like, there's a problem with the house. I know who to call. I know
So
Charlie knows what to do. Or if we need something done, we just get it done. And so I get frustrated because I feel like if I want to go somewhere, I have to look at his schedule, coordinate the car. Like that's a huge issue, the car thing. Like,
yes.
don't share car well together.
No.
Share car well together. Like it's a big issue. We make it work, right? Because we're used to it. Like
Yeah.
it just takes so much coordination, I feel like on my end, where I feel like I'm mentally tapped out as it is, and then having to like look at his schedule, look at what I
Yeah.
miss that sense of like independence and freedom and feeling like I can just go and do what I want when I want.
Yes. I know exactly. I feel the exact same way. And I was just talking about this with one of the girls. It's just like, even as such as the car, like sometimes I don't even need the car, but it's just like this uncomfortable feeling. Like if I did need the car, I don't have it. And you know
Mhm.
me, like I'm just like always preparing for worst case scenario. And like now that I have a baby, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like if I ever had to like load her up in the car and like go grab something or take her somewhere, like it's just a very uncomfortable feeling to not have that. And then exactly like you said, I feel like because he takes the car to practice, I sit here and just wait for him to come back. And then I'm like, so what do you want to do today? Like, I feel like that every day. What do you want to go do? And he's like, well, I kind of want to relax and hang out. And I'm like, well, I've been sitting here all day because I haven't had the car to go do whatever I want. Like, I can walk around to a few things or whatever, but it's just a very different type of living to go from like home. And then, like you said, having to go through someone for every single thing. Like, my daughter had the ear infection. It was like,
Go through the
message
yeah.
the team doctor and like thank God his wife is a pediatrician. But you know, it's just like you feel like you're helpless unless the team is helping. Like the team like has to help every single situation. So you're
Want them like involved in every personal matter either. Like it's nice to have those connections, but sometimes you're like, I kind of want to like have my own.
yeah.
I don't need everybody to know my stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like this is a I mean, you can put this on here or not, it doesn't matter to me. But like I remember I gave birth last season and like she wasn't even an hour old. And we get on Facebook and like they posted the lineup for the team and like now who knows who found this out, but like somebody's like, where's Kestner or why is he not playing? And someone commented like the daughter was just born. And I'm like, how does someone know that my daughter was born? Like I have so many family members that don't even know. Like my best friends don't even know that she's born yet. And like there's people on Facebook like posting about it. So I just feel like you have no privacy or
Yeah.
independence sometimes from hockey. It's all encompassing. Everything about your life when you're over here is somehow connected with hockey. And like you said, I'm appreciative. Like my visas, like I could never go figure that out on my own. So like I'm thankful like the team helps me do things like that. But you're right. There's some times where it's just like I just want to get my keys and like go like therapy shop and like go look at a store without having to like think if Josh will need the car or when's he gonna come back or
Yeah. The women are so organized with things like that too, and like it always goes through the guy, and I feel like they're not as like I'm very direct. Like if I want something, I'm like, hey, this is what I need, and like I feel like Charlie like like they don't want to step on anyone's toes, so they kind of
yeah.
like sugarcoat it or like maybe not ask like directly what
Yeah.
needed, and then like it might seem more casual or less urgent than like like can I be the one to text them? Like I don't want to have to go through you because like you're not getting it done. Like I can get shit done. Like I
Yeah.
that's something about me. And I think a lot of women is like we can get shit done when it's like push and
Yeah.
pull. Like,
And we know what to say. Like there's
yes.
so many times I'm like, tell them this. Or like how many WhatsApp conversations have you read between like Charlie and like somebody with the team of, in regards to something and you're like, no, tell them this. Or like why like I don't know. I
Yeah.
just feel like every time I'm like, Josh, did you like tell them we have to have I told and then you read it and it's like the most passive, like suggestive like we can maybe use, I don't know. I don't even want to give an example because I'm going to be so far off, but it's so true. And I have a very confrontational personality, so I'm just like I joke with them all the time. I'm like, if you let me handle this, let me be your agent. I'll make sure that we have a 2-bedroom apartment and we have all these things lined up. But
It's funny you say you're confrontational because I just don't I mean, maybe just because we're friends, I just don't like see that. I mean, you're sassy, but I just don't see you like causing a fuss.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm not like out looking for a fuss, but I said it earlier, like if you give me your word or tell me you're going to do something for me, then it's like,
yeah, you hold
yeah,
your
or don't lie to me. Don't lie to us and say, I don't know. That's why and it's like our life. Like I know that sounds dramatic, but like I'm thinking like if I don't speak up about this apartment or make a fuss about whatever, it's like I'm stuck with
right.
whatever they've given for 9 months or whatever.
Always the one that has to suffer through it. I mean, like suffer might be a strong, well, let's say let's not use the word suffers so that people don't get upset, but
Yeah.
you're the one that has to deal with it
Yeah.
and just suck it up. And even if it makes you like unhappy.
Yeah. And like everything else is like I always vent to Josh and my mom and stuff about it. None of my friends, like you truly are one of the top people I can vent to and you understand it, but like so few people in our lives live like this. So like I don't even have anyone to vent to about it if that is what I get stuck with. And like they don't even understand. Like they can try to be supportive, but like no one, very few people in my close inner circle understand like living over here in general, much less like not getting the living that you wanted or not having, I don't know. I don't know.
Listen, there's going to be people that listen to this episode and they're going to just be like, I just, I don't understand. Like, I didn't have that experience. I don't have that experience. That's interest. Like, they might just be curious, like, to hear. But
Yeah.
there's a reason that your last episode was like one of the most downloaded ones. It's because so many people do struggle with this and they want to feel like they're not alone struggling with this. And so if we're not
Yeah.
having these conversations where like, sure, some people might see this as complaining, like it's true, it's not complaining. Like we're literally talking about like the facets of this lifestyle and
Yeah.
like the hardships that come with it. And yeah, it's all fun and games, and we want to, try to be positive because if we're just miserable, it's just going to make us feel awful. But
Yeah.
it is like we do have to talk about this stuff because if
Yeah.
we don't, who will, Like,
Yeah. It's the reality of what it is. And like, I think sometimes people like get uncomfortable hearing like the hard truth about things. And so like, me, I'm an open book and like I'm just gonna shoot you straight. Like if myself could talk to myself 5 years ago, it's like, I don't know. I told Josh, I'm like, I'm blessed with the shoes that I have, but I also wish there were certain people in my life that could wear my shoes like for a week and just see like what it's like because like I can even sit here and like divulge all this to you and there's still people like you said they're like not even gonna have a clue. They think like I'm unappreciative, I complain too much, or I'm not optimistic. And like I try to be optimistic, but like at the end of the day, like a lot of things are just taken out of our control and like we're just like left to make the best of it. And we don't even have family or friends or any normalcy. Like you're just trying to like make normalcy of your life for 8 or 9 months. And about the time that you're successful at doing so, you're leaving and like 9 times out of 10, you're going somewhere else the next season. So it's just like, it's very exhausting way of life to live over and over, to be quite blunt.
no, you're right. And this is like that time, and I feel this is that time, January. Like I said, you're about 4.5 months in. For me, I know you got there later, but then it's the halfway point. So you have just as much time as you've been there already, which to me feels like a long time, as that's how much is left.
Yes.
And talking about this too, it's like we're comparing it because we have a different life back home.
A
Like
totally different life.
it's like that's where our life is. And so I think when we're uprooted and taken away from it, it's like that's why it's so hard.
Yeah. It's
Like we don't we're not getting to choose a lot of the things that happen or the people that we're around or the places that we live. And so when you do have a good thing going back home, it's hard.
yeah, it's really hard. And like you said, everything you made a point, like with the friends, like you're dependent on like who's going to be on the team to even like be your friend or be able to even like communicate with you. There's a lot of times like I've met girls on various teams, but like I couldn't be close friends with them because they don't really speak English well and I don't speak the language well. So like it's just very surface level conversations. So like every season, you're just like crossing your fingers that you have one or two girls that you can like confide in. And when you don't have that, like going back to like Russia, I had one girl there, but she went back and forth with her baby back home. It's just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just very isolating. It's a very, um, I'm type A. I'm kind of like a control freak. So I just think like it's very hard that your home is where you live is out of your control. Who your friends are is out of control. The doctors that you see is out of your control. um I don't, your schedule is out of control, and like they can give you a schedule and it's like not even what your actual schedule is going to be. So, and that makes me even more codependent on Josh, because like I think he gets the escape of like going to work and like having a whole team of like guys that he can like talk to, and like they're all like living the same thing. And then like we're here just like in this apartment. I've got Piper and I have Lee Rose, but when he comes home, it's like I just want like normal conversation. I want like an adult to talk to me in like English and just like understand what I'm going through. And I don't even think our husbands can. I think they would be shocked if the roles were reversed. Truly, I tell Josh that all the time. Like he understands it, but he doesn't understand it at the same time.
Yep. Charlie and I have that conversation. He's like, I totally get it. And I'm like, I know you see it, but you don't feel it. And that's the difference. So, like, you can see how I feel and what my experience has been, but you don't deeply feel it like I do just because you haven't personally been through it. And I was gonna ask you something else, but I feel like this is like a good chance to maybe go into some of the health anxiety stuff because like you talked about like feeling really out of control, and like you and I talk about this so much with like our anxiety about our health. Like I think that we really latch on to that because we're trying to look for any sort of control that we can get because we feel so out of control in this lifestyle.
Absolutely. I think that's the only thing that, yeah, that's the only thing I feel like I personally have control of is like what's going on with me. And I also have like this worried feeling that like I always feel like I'm on edge, like waiting for the ball to drop, like something is wrong with me. And like here I am in this foreign place where like I already feel a little bit uncomfortable to like get in the car and go like to the grocery store. I don't know. Like just something so simple is like can be a challenge or uncomfortable. So then I just start spiraling about like if something were bad wrong with my health. I'm like, I had a hard time ordering like the salmon at this restaurant and them understanding me. So like if I'm like having gallbladder issues, like can you imagine going to a hospital and like trying to convey like this abnormal feeling that I can't even fully describe to Josh for them to understand? Um, yeah, and I think every in this time of the year is always the worst for me too, because I have so much time to just sit and
Think and obsess.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it
and
is a very unhealthy coping mechanism, but it's a coping mechanism.
yeah, absolutely.
It's the way that we're trying. And mine, so I did an episode on my postpartum health anxiety. So like my dad's like, you've always kind of been a hypochondriac, but like postpartum it got very, very bad. And it was about myself. And like I was just, you know this, but just for people that might not have listened to that episode, like I would just latch on to like hundreds of different things. And I think with social media these days, like and algorithms, like you watch one thing and then it just feels like this is happening to and then you're like, is this going to happen to me? I'm in a foreign country. I have kids. Like I need to be there for them. And I think you and I very much, I don't even know how it like got brought up between the two of us that we both suffer with this. I think I just like mentioned it to you and you were like, oh my God, I do the same.
Identical.
You were like,
Yeah,
Devin, I'm not kidding you. Like, it's like ruining my life. Like,
yeah. It's it's the most draining and consuming thing that I deal with
and
daily.
oh, yeah. No, it's like for me, postpartum, like when it started happening, like you almost don't even realize what's going on until and sometimes I still don't. And I know you still don't either because it's such a mental like
It's
disease.
real in your head. Like it's
Yeah. But like, I didn't realize it was going on for a while until I was like, wait a second. Like, I was just worrying about this. Now I'm worrying about this and this and this. Like, there's no way all these four things are like, what's going on?
connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, And the more I like, the more I focus on one symptom and like I joke with you, but like it's true. Like I like examine whatever it is I'm worried about over and over and over and over until it goes away or gets like I'm looking for any sort of change or like an explanation for something. And it's like while I'm doing that, I almost always find something else wrong
Yeah.
with me. Like that I'm like, oh my gosh, like just like you said, like is that connected or like has my eye always looked that way? Like I'll go back through pictures and I'm like, have my eyes always been like that? Or like am I just noticing it? And then I spiral like about like my big thing here with my health anxiety is like, am I going to be able to get the help that I need? Like if something like bad happens to me. And then, like you said, I'll cry to Josh. I'm like, Leah Rose like can't be without a mom. And he's like, Maggie, like you are like so
This way, oh, Charlie, I don't even like we've talked about this. I'm like, I don't even tell Charlie anymore. I'll be like subtly like, hey, do you ever like, does this ever happen to you? And he'll be like, no. And then I'm like, fuck.
yeah,
Or he'll be like, oh
nothing
yeah,
is
like
the
that definitely does. Like, okay, good. We're good. We're in the clear here. But like, I don't
like
even talk to him about it anymore because like he got so like he would get so bothered. Like obviously, like I said this to you today. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I did not have this and I lived with someone that was dealing with
dude.
this, like I am gonna go crazy. So I understand like how annoying it must be, but like he was like him and a lot of my friends were really worried about me postpartum because like and I like vaguely talked about it, but it's just like because it was really bad and I still have it, but it was debilitating.
Yeah.
I don't even want to like say it to him because he just gets so like worried about my mental. It's like more of a mental, like he like wants to fix it. And I'm like, it's not really like,
It's not an easy fix.
and we do exactly what you're not supposed to do, which is like we look for reassurance seeking in each other. And that's like one of the biggest things of OCD is reassurance seeking.
Yeah. I message you all the like my initial thought is to text you or text my mom every single time. And like God love like no God love you as well, but like at least you like know what I'm like experiencing. My mom is not that way. Like she's much more level headed when it comes to stuff. So I know she's annoyed by it. But like I'm like, sorry, you're my mom.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I think I'm dying again. I know this is Wednesday and I thought I was dying on Monday, but you know what? This is different. And I don't know if you feel like this. I feel like the one thing I don't hyper fixate on is going to be the thing that's going to get me. Like, you know,
Maggie.
like, you know what I mean? Like, I try and then like I worry about something and I get over it. And then I'm like, that was really over the top. This time when something comes up, I'm going to not text Devin. I'm not going to get on Google. I'm not going to get on TikTok and search whatever it is.
Worst thing you can do.
And it lasts like maybe 6 hours max. And then I'm like, okay, but what if this is something and I don't get it addressed or I don't look into it and then it's too far gone. And it's real. Like that's truly in my head what I think. And I think being a nurse, you know, I can talk to you like as a nurse and I'm very like
You're my
level.
nurse. You're my nurse practitioner. Like at least like yeah, you're very like credible. I'm like credible from Google and all the searching I've done, but like you're actually like legit. So I'm like, Maggie,
Yeah. And I
my
feel confident like telling you that you're going to be okay or that it's fine. But for me, I think being working as a nurse is what's ruined me because I'm like, I told Josh, I don't remember all like the normal things I think that happen working in the ER. Like I remember like those weird fluky things where like someone
yeah,
comes in with like this super like vague common symptom and then it's like something just horrible. That has always stuck with me. And then like I just carried that into myself. And I also know what to Google, which to an extent, you know what I mean? Like I know medical terms and like diseases and stuff that I feel like a lot of like average people like just don't even have like a clue about, which is like good. I'm envious of that. And so that's where I get like going in my rabbit hole of
totally. And we've talked about this, like we have so much free time. And so
yeah,
for me, I just think I'm a lot more prone to go lazy and do not as much here. So I have more time to sit with myself and look for any potential sign of danger. You know what I mean? Like that's a brain thing. Like
yeah,
and so many anxiety symptoms manifest physically, which I'm learning. And I think the more that you are anxious, like it's such a vicious cycle, which I didn't know that till like this year, is that like anxiety can manifest physically. Like
Yeah.
you might be getting like these physical symptoms that are actually just signs of anxiety, but then like it also could be a sign of something that's like so beyond rare, but you then convince yourself because you saw one random TikTok.
It
Like
was like it was like fate that that came up on your For You page. Like that.
exactly. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
how? So it's just sad that we feel such a lack of control. And this always comes back up for me when I'm stressed.
Yeah.
Like
And
I
lack of
and lack of sleep. Like I was doing so well. And then yeah, I just like been going to bed super late. Like I was feeling just kind of down the last month, just feeling like lonely. And sure enough, it what is it
it,
that reared its ugly head, or what is it? Reared its ugly head.
yeah, reared its ugly head.
Reared its ugly head. And I'm like, why is this happening again? Like I thought I was like past this, and it's so frustrating.
And you
Like,
can feel it coming on you.
yes,
Like, or at least I can. Like I can there's like a I'm a totally different person when I'm not dealing with that
same.
versus when I am. And like it's so freeing like when I get out of whatever it is I'm worried about, and I promise myself every time I'm not going to go back and be that, like I'm going to be more level-headed. I'm going to like give things time to like to resolve on their own. And it's just like and I think I'm a fixer, and I think you're a fixer, so like I'm just like looking how to fix something, and when I can't fix it, that's when I like start trying to like figure out why this ointment isn't fixing this rash, or we had the rash on our hands and stuff like that. But just it's just one thing after the next, and it doesn't help we're living somewhere where the food's different, the soap's different, the weather's different, the air quality's different, and so you don't know what is just a manifestation of like an illness or just like change in your environment and your lifestyle. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is a little dramatic for me to say, but like I feel like almost hollow when I'm over here sometimes. Like I feel like I'm just like trying to get through the next day. Like you said, back home I like have excitement that I can, I don't know, go to Pure Bar or go to yoga or go see my friend or go hang out with my neighbor. And it's like here there's not a lot to do. I mean, I can go to a game, like I can get together with the girls and that.
Let me ask you this. So on a season where you have a group of people that you hang out with versus not, like how do you get through, and I'm kind of almost like, because you and I could go on about health anxiety for an
Yeah.
hour. I want to like try
Yeah.
to circle us back to like, does that make a big difference for you whether you have people or not? And like how does that, like how does that look different for you?
Actually, I know for a fact that the group of girls for me personally is just a huge contributing factor to my overall happiness and like content with being where I'm at. And another thing like that I'm going to add into it, but it's like also it's hard to find like group of girls that like you can relate to. And then like once you have a baby, I've learned like if someone's not in the same stage of life as you, like I could be really great friends with them, but like they also don't understand what my life like. I don't know how to exactly, and that's like no offense to someone who does or doesn't have a baby, but like you know what I mean. Like my day is gonna look totally different having a baby than like your day, like if you're just here on your own. And so I think that's hard. Thankfully here I have my friend who's got a baby, so like me and her can like vent back and forth, like the baby didn't sleep, or like I think my baby's getting sick or whatever. Like she's a huge help. But just in past seasons, like if you can have a great group of girls, but if they're not living the same season of life as you, that's just one more difference. Like you're already like trying to get to know somebody and you have limited time to do that. So like what are you going to do? Explain your whole life story? That's like takes up a chunk of the season, and then like you're living two totally different lives. I think you've made like TikToks and stuff about it, like that
Yeah.
old one, like the raspy, like like every year you feel like you're trying to like get your whole life story out to somebody. But let me loop back to say it can make a huge impact, because if you're living somewhere and you don't have girls, you're totally isolated minus your husband.
Hmm.
really. Like, I guess there's probably some people who can go out and like find like expats and stuff and like get involved and stuff like that. That's not me. That's not my personality. So I'm just speaking on myself. I rely heavily on like girls to be on the team that like I can relate to, that I have stuff in common with, that I can go to dinner with and like vent about like our Christmas break getting shortened or whatever. Um, and they understand my feeling almost more than Josh, because like we said earlier, we're living the same life, but also two totally different lives. He has a job, he has a sense of identity. When you don't have girls, you're just like, you're so isolated, and it's very lonely to do that. And what's even more lonely is like seasons where there are girls, but you feel like you're not in with those girls, or like you're not being included, or maybe you're included but you just feel like there's more to that friend group than like what they're giving you, without me.
But
So
so how do you handle like, because clicks definitely happen on teams. How do you handle that?
it's a hard thing to navigate because you're at the mercy of the girls on the team, is how I feel. So I personally, in the past, I feel like I expend a lot of my energy like trying to have a bond with them, or um, feel like we're friends. But when you're already feeling lonely, and then like you feel like you just have like these girls that are maybe mean or like not being genuine to your face, it's just very it's sad, honestly. I don't even know how to.
It
Yes,
adds to the hardships of being so far from people that you love.
yes, it's just one more tack in the box of like making your life hard over here. And that's what I've never understood. And I've told girls this on like teams when they're having clicks. It's just like, I don't understand why anyone can be in this lifestyle and feel the need to be ugly to other girls, because like we're all just trying to survive it. As dramatic as that sounds, we're all trying to make the best of it. We all have something that's hard for us here. Like, even if girls are from Europe, it's like they're still coming sometimes to a new country to live. Like, they're leaving their family and friends and stuff too. And so like, I guess my mindset is like, we should all just like be there for each other and try to like make this as easy as possible for everyone. So it just is very hurtful when you feel like you're being excluded from something, or people aren't being genuine to you, or there's cliques that you're not being let into, because I can't find words, because I can't understand why that would even take place, but it takes place more often than not, to put it blunt.
Oh, definitely. I mean, so many people are checking in lately. Again, it's that mid-season time of year where pe relationships have been formed, and like it's constant. Like people are sending that in, and it does really suck when you feel like you're on the outs. And I think when you're not invited. Just like, I mean,
Yeah.
you can tell everybody has a much richer bond, and you're kind of like,
Hmm.
not gonna what's going on.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
quite obvious. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
There can be a lot of mean girl energy in this lifestyle. And I think people don't talk about it because it's in the moment, it feels like it's a you problem, or like, why am I not being included, or why, like, I don't know. People don't talk about that. So like, you feel like maybe it's just this team or you or the season or whatever. But I bet like if you took every single girl here, they can tell you that without a doubt, like they've experienced it in some degree. I mean, I've even experienced girls not being kind to me because like their husband and my husband might have like the same role on a team. You know what I mean? Like, one's taking more ice time from the other. And I just think it's so ridiculous that that type of thing would carry in. Or you can attest, maybe like girls that have come from higher up leagues and are coming down, they have like this sense of entitlement that they're too, I don't know. I don't want to say too good, but like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I felt like we went on the Nashville group, like there was girls from all different leagues, and like there's girls in the NHL making millions, and then like there's people in lower leagues like just getting started, and like we were all just like, none of that really mattered. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, I've been on teams where it does matter. It matters like that
Yeah,
maybe their husband. Yeah. Yeah. And I just always try to think like if people were coming to Nashville to play hockey and I was like a local there or whatever, like I feel it in me that I would need to like take in all these like foreign people coming in and like take them under my wing, and like you don't get that everywhere you go. Sometimes you do. Like I've had seasons where I have great girlfriends, and like last year I had great girls that helped me, and like in Finland they're all like I keep up with so many of them, but there's been times that I've been on teams that I just feel like I'm not being included, or I'm just like at the surface level of the group, and then like there's more going on within it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
totally.
Probably because I've been on a tangent for 20 minutes.
No, no, no. I was gonna say something like piggyback off something you said, and now I'm like, ugh, sorry, I'm gonna forget it now. Oh, now I'm like, I feel like I actually do kind of want to talk about the show because I was thinking about it. I think
Okay.
who cares?
Yeah, what are they gonna do? Pull us from the show? No, like I'm trying to think of what he said to me. Like when I did the interview, he was just like, "I'm gonna let you know when you're being recorded. This is gonna be shown to I don't know what even term he used, but basically like people are gonna look at this and like get 10 minutes of this interview together and then show it to the producers, and then
No, I mean, he told me like legally, like even on the recording, he's like, this will not go anywhere. That legally they can't publish this anywhere.
yeah, and like
Like,
yeah, so he knows that it's being talked about, and like when I first talked to him the first time, I was like, he asked me straight up if I'd heard about it, and I was like, yeah, like I've heard from, and he was like, oh, I love to be the hot gossip, or I love to be the tea
yeah, so
going.
part of me is like, shit, do we want to like there's I guess we'll just bring it up just out of the freaking blue, but there's been a lot of chitter chatter about a show.
Yeah, there.
Coming to Netflix.
Yeah, there's a show
You.
coming, um, and I don't even know what to say about it because I'm kind of at a loss for words. But we were both we were both considered for the job. um,
Don't they want all this good content on their Netflix?
I'm I'm telling you, I said it at the beginning of this interview. I'm pretty sure there is no way to know what this life is like without coming over here and experiencing it. So,
Very curious how it's all going to go down. So like they really wanted it to be on the NHL. I only know of uh four girls that they talked to in Europe. I know who it is. I think that once they were open to the idea of doing it, but I think they ultimately were just like it probably got too complicated, is what I
yeah,
think. And I do
yeah,
think they wanted to keep it one team to keep it like easy and everything. But yeah, I'm very curious how it's all gonna play out and like how they're going to portray the lifestyle. And I think that was like as we were going through the interview process, I feel like you and I were both very like, if it's gonna be something that's like authentic and like authentically portrays like how we're living, like sign me up. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I'm like, if this is gonna be a show where it's like this is the glitz and the glam and like, but yeah, I was just kind of like, I don't want to be a part of something that's like not true to what I'm
yeah,
living, because some of the questions that we were asked, I was like, I don't want to like be someone I'm not.
exactly. I distinctly remember when I got off my interview, like my neighbor was watching my daughter, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, like how'd it go?" And I was like, "Weird." Like that was like the word that I used. I like I was super excited about it. Like that was one of the most exciting things that I've like been
Yeah,
asked to
I
do.
was like, oh my gosh, like this is
Yeah.
cool. Like I would love to represent
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And we even said like it would be life changing, almost simply in the sense that like somebody might be able to understand what we go through. Like that is the biggest challenge for me doing this, is like I feel like there's just no one who truly understands it. So going into the interview, I like thought it was going to be all about like living in these different places, like the difficulties of it, like the perk of maybe going to Europe, like my husband being in, like I even said in the phone call, like my husband was in Russia like during a war. Like I thought those types of things would be like what he wanted to know about me. And I felt like when I got off the interview, I'm like, they don't know anything about me, to be quite like they know a shell of me, but like nothing that I thought was going to be covered or asked was really asked. It was just um, very superficial information pulled from me. I felt
Mhm.
like did I want to look hot for the hockey game? Did me and Josh like truly like that? And I mean, like I was like, well, yeah, I do want to look good for the games, but also just like remember I told you like would we get in a fight before a game or like do I need to suppress all of that for him to perform well? I don't know. Just yeah, I'm interested to see what direction it goes because if it was the questions I was asked, like I don't know. I just don't know how else it could be produced other than like this Hollywood glam.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not what I'm living, by the way. Like I wish I was. I
I
wish
think
I
I think that people like to see that. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like I love Real Housewives, I love reality TV, like Selling Sunset. Like it is fun to see like that aspect of like the glitz and the glam. And like obviously NHL is like a completely different situation than like what a lot of us are living over here in Europe. And like that's amazing. Like if, obviously if you are in that league and you can
yeah.
play in that league, like of course,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but it is like very different than what we're living. And so I feel that a lot of people have this misconception that that's how all of us live and that's how like all the rinks are and all the like everything is and like, you know, and it's not all like that. And like the lifestyle is very different. And so, first of all, let me also add, I feel like I'm too soft to be on TV. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I could handle because people are going to say the worst things about you, right? You put yourself
Yeah.
out there, people are going to say, you're ugly, you're fat, you're whatever. Like, anybody
Yeah.
will talk, say anything that they can. So, part of me was like, do I want to open up myself for that criticism? Because right now, I've already been having a hard time mentally. Like, I don't want to dig myself into a deeper hole. But also, I was like, oh, this could be a really cool opportunity. So, I'll just preface with like, I wasn't even certain about it, but like
Yeah.
I was a little bit disappointed in the sense that like I wish they would have portrayed this aspect of this lifestyle because no one really knows what it's like. And I think that's like the cool part of doing it is like, holy crap, did you see how like
Yeah.
like some of these people have to go through over there, you know? Like
Yeah, exactly. It was deflating for me because I'm just piggybacking off of you. I thought for once the world might get to see what it's like. Like even me and you can sit here and like talk about it, but like I think if like someone was videoing me and like seeing the raw emotion of like a lot of the things that every single one of us go through over here, it would be very just like eye opening. And then I think I don't know, like some people have great support systems, but like for me, there's some people that don't appreciate appreciate our lifestyle or like think that I don't know. I don't get support in some areas that I feel like I should. And so I think that this would have been like an opportunity for like maybe people to see what it was really gonna like what it's really like.
yeah.
Um
Listen, if you're listening to this and you are going on that show, like all I can say is like I just hope that people can be like vulnerable and real and actually portray like the hard elements of this lifestyle because we all go through it. Like there's difficult parts regardless of what league you're in. Like guys in the NHL, they're gone for 10 days. Like you're still like living in a foreign
yeah,
country. Like or some people are living like very far away from home without a support. Like
right.
I just want that stuff to be portrayed. Like, I just don't want it to be like, I don't know. And I also did not appreciate the fact that they were like texting me, asking me for people that I thought would be good for the show, and like me sending them a list of people because I'm nice before they
Yeah.
said I would be a part, and then them just like ghosting me. Like, I was just like, that just feels like there is nothing more that I hate than feeling like I'm being used. And for
Yeah.
me, that felt very like, you're using me. Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
using me because of like the connections that I have to form
Absolutely.
what you want to make. Like you actually didn't have any like Yeah, but I mean, I obviously like I will be watching and supporting, and I hope it
Oh
represents
yeah.
what we want it to. But like at the end of the day, we're not producing the show. They are producing what the vast majority
Right.
wants
Right.
or wants to see.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, like we're all NHL, Europe, whatever. We're all kind of like protective of each other. Like we kind of like give each other a hard time, and like we sit here and say like there's clicks and stuff, but at the end of the day it's like those are kind of like our people. So to feel like it maybe was not, or maybe it won't be portrayed in the right light is like I'm not even going to be on the show, and like I already kind of like have stress for like maybe people that are going on it,
Yeah,
because
like that's
I
kind
just
of
don't want anything to be spun in a way that it's not.
yeah,
um and at the same time, like you just said it, there's girls in the NHL that go through like harder things that I'm going through, and so I just hope that that's also shown for their sake too, because I know how good it feels to like be seen and be understood, like things that you're going through. And so it's just like you just don't want anything to ever give like this false sense of reality to like what girls are going through when they're already having a tough time. It's a stressful life, even if you're making $5 million a year. Like I can guarantee it. I'm not that person, but you know what I mean. It's just
no, for
it's
sure.
I just wish that the questions, and maybe like further on that's what it got into, but I just felt like it was very surface level and not it wasn't a
It didn't feel in alignment.
yeah, I didn't feel like when I got off I felt good about it. I was like you, I was like even if I heard back, I wasn't sure that I was going to commit to it, because
Yeah.
I'm just
I was hoping to hear back and I was hoping to get more clarity on like how it was
yeah,
going. I felt like I had questions, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait, I actually kind of want to know a little bit more. But I feel like they could always tell you, like, oh, yeah, we're doing it this way, but then it winds up being completely different. So I know, I mean, I've talked to people that are definitely veering on the side of caution with the whole thing, but yeah,
yeah,
I'm just very genuinely curious how they're going to wind up doing the whole thing.
yeah. And I mean, who knows, like maybe Peacock's next, maybe they're coming for us, Kevin. They're they want to see the raw reality of European living,
Yeah, we'll see.
because we would be the girls. I mean, we could give the people what they wanted over here.
Well, we're honest. We don't hold, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat. If you ask me a question, uh-oh, did I lose you?
There, sorry, my dad was calling me.
Oh, your parents calling us. I'm like, that's like really strange. I really don't know why my no, I appreciate like you are an open book and I appreciate that about you. I think it's like, easy to kind of try to, jump around circles and I even find myself doing that sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to say too much, but like you really don't get to the meat if you
Yeah,
stay on the surface. And I think it's just good to talk about on a deeper level.
yeah. I just always appreciate when someone going through this like is open with me, and I think that's why me and you have such a good bond, is we're just like straight up with each other. And I also kind of like want to do it for like my old self. Like I said, I wish I had this knowledge and could have told myself what 7 years ago, what it would be like. It would have helped me along while a lot of the way through everything. Just that a lot of us are going through the same struggles, whether we say it or not, and it's just a very unique lifestyle that no one can understand but us. Even our husbands don't even they don't know the half of it really, because we don't tell them. But
Well, thank you for coming on for the second time. I said, where can people find you?
oh, sorry. They can find me on Instagram. Maggie.Kestner, I believe, is my Instagram. And it's filled with a lot of baby pictures, but you can also see a lot of fun stuff that I do there too. So